Well, good morning, everyone. It's really great to see so many friends, colleagues, and new faces here with us today. My name is Jessica Shadian, as was just said, and I am President and CEO of Arctic 360. We are Canada's premier Arctic think tank, a nonpartisan, registered, not-for-profit organization with a majority Indigenous-led executive leadership team. We work with Indigenous corporations and northern governments, the federal government, the private sector, Arctic leaders, like-minded neighbors, think tanks, and institutions here and around the circumpolar world and beyond. Our mission is to elevate the national conversation about Canada's North and the Arctic region, and to provide an inclusive and coordinated platform for Canada to engage in discussions around the world. At its core, our focus is on finding solutions to foster a sustainable, prosperous, and secure Canadian North American Arctic, and circumpolar region. Our activities range from policy-facing research to participation in international research projects, as well as our signature Breaking the Ice podcast series. This past year, through the support of Global Affairs Canada, we actually had our first intern, Jaden Stevens, who joined us from Norman Wells, where he's been a co-producer of the series. And we look forward to the prospect of continuing our work with him. He's here at the conference, and I hope you'll take some time to talk with him. Other activities include our interactive infrastructure mapping project we hope to accelerate on. We host conference panels and sessions with our colleagues and partners at Arctic events around the circumpolar North. And of course, we have our annual conference, which is why you're all here today. So, in reflecting on where to focus my opening remarks, as these are not easy times, I defer to what any good academic would do. I decided to start at the beginning. So when we set out planning our first Arctic 360 conference in 2018, the intention was simple. Let's get Canada talking about our North, about doing what we need to do so that our North can prosper, be sustainable, and secure. And the plan was twofold. One aim was to bring Northerners together with Bay Street to figure out how to do what we need to do so that the capital investments are possible to build the infrastructure necessary to make Canada's North flourish. And the second aim recognized that the potential of Canada's North is interconnected to the larger North American Arctic that includes Alaska and Greenland. With so many similarities, from cultural ties to infrastructure challenges, in addition to our shared geography, it seemed almost natural for Alaska and Greenland to be part of our efforts. After all, prosperous, sustainable, secure, and North American Arctic is a prosperous, sustainable, and secure Canadian North. So that's what we did. The North showed up, Canada as well, so did Alaska and Greenland. And we had the few brave souls who agreed to travel all the way from Bay Street, 3 blocks down to University Avenue, to join the discussion. We focus on the potential the North holds and recognize that national neglect has left that potential unrealized, leaving Northerners lacking the most basic critical infrastructure from transportation to energy, telecommunications, health and education services, and adequate housing. It was time to pull up our sleeves and get to work. The conference ended with a feeling of optimism and a will to figure out how to strengthen collaboration both at home and across the North American Arctic. That was 2018. What a different world it was. And as time moved forward, at the global level, interest in and attention to the Arctic continued to grow. The Arctic Council was becoming a busy place. Meetings had outgrown the capacity of high school gymnasiums. They now included Secret Service details, delegations from China to France, and strict protocols over who was invited, the door you can get into, and where you can sit. In Canada, well, the national consensus, I would say by business, government alike, seemed to be, these are busy times. Investing in the North is hard. But we are paying attention because look how much we care about climate change. Then came 2022. The year arrived, ushering in with it a global pandemic. And with no sense of irony, Canadian families suddenly found themselves for the first time waking up each morning with the overwhelming sense of insecurity about access to the most basic critical infrastructure they took for granted every day. The nation mobilized. Canadians were provided for, and everything possible was done to try to make everyone feel safe, secure, and remain healthy. After all, access to critical infrastructure and a functioning economy was paramount. And as COVID wore on, This grew the sense of kind of, it's almost collective agreement around the world that, we would all forever live by the notion that time in history would be marked by life before and after COVID. I think that sentiment is almost quaint in retrospect. Almost as soon as we ventured back outside, Russia invaded Ukraine. This happened 10 days before our 2023 annual conference, in which every Arctic state ambassador and representation to Canada was set to sit together on the same stage. The focus of the conversation was to celebrate 25 years of Arctic cooperation and for Russia to discuss its chairship of the Arctic Council. The chaos and uncertainty that Russia inflicted on the Arctic peace, not to mention the horrors it unleashed on Ukrainians themselves, only seemed to strengthen the resolve to Arctic cooperation among the rest. For the 7 Arctic nations in Greenland that sat on the stage that year, their message was clear. It was unified, and it was non-wavering. The Western allied Arctic nations would double down on their commitment to international norms and laws and democratic rules of the rules-based system. And this included, of course, not least, cooperation in the Arctic. That was 2023. Today, it's not a stretch to wonder if the history books will write about today's world politics as that era that came to be defined as life before and post-2025. Frankly, it's all a delicate balance, standing here, keeping focus on the glass half full rather than the glass half empty. With each passing year, despite the onset of new challenges, it always seemed obvious to me that the big picture was one where the glass half full shined brighter and the possible would prevail. We just needed to do the hard work. But I would be naive and childish if I was going to stand up here today with a big smile, welcoming everyone with a cheerleading routine and a motivational speech. Because the fact is, the world's not okay. How do we make sense of what is unfolding in real time? How do we navigate and strengthen our collective security, ensure our national sovereignties, and our commitment to democracy and the rule of law? Frankly, who is the we in this collective discussion? On the domestic front, this is not a time to sit in comfortable chairs and point fingers and place blame on others. This is not going to safeguard or defend Canada's Arctic sovereignty. The issues are Canadian and they affect us all. And with that, realizing Canada's Arctic potential is no longer a choice or even a privilege, it's a necessity. It's a necessity here at home and to the collective security of our Arctic allies within the Arctic, within NATO, and beyond. And what this means, the steps to take, solutions needed, choices to be made, and how to get there, well, those are all part and parcel to the conversations over the next 2 days. The upside, I would say, to what feels like, we're the band basically playing the music on the Titanic as it topples and sinks into an iceberg-laden sea, is that some things haven't changed. And so my closing remarks from last year, they seem at least as important today as they were then. Nothing is never easy when it comes to the Arctic, not the weather, not the ability to get sufficient resources, not to be heard in the halls of national capitals or on the streets of financial centers. But when it comes to the Arctic, resiliency is not a word in name only. And whenever you put a bunch of Arctic folks in a room together, the thread throughout the conversation, the parting message is always the same. When it comes to the North, persistence is not a choice, the value is not up for discussion, and its potential is exponential. We just need to convince everyone outside this room of this reality. Well, today, as democracy hangs on, I would say, by an even thinner thread, and every passing day brings yet a new crisis, the Arctic conversation must persist. And at home here in Canada, it must accelerate if we want it to be able to persist. So I thank you all for being here, and I really look forward to our conversations over the next 2 days.